In the grand tapestry of existence, there existed entities that defied comprehension, their abilities far beyond the realm of the natural world. One such entity was the Eye Demon, a spectral being of unparalleled power, whose gaze could pierce the veil of reality itself. But her abilities weren't limited to mere perception. She could manipulate the very fabric of time, a power she wielded with alarming efficiency. Driven by a motive that was as clear as it was unfathomable, the Eye Demon had set her sights on an unthinkable task: to hunt down and confront her future self. The reasons behind this self-destructive goal were obscured in her inscrutable mind, but her resolve was unwavering. As she journeyed through the temporal rift, she could feel the pressure of time, the tug and pull of years yet to come. The further she ventured into the future, the more she felt herself change, her spectral form shifting and morphing in response to the tides of time. The transformation wasn't random, though. It took on a visage that was painfully familiar to one she intended to use against her future self, and a man caught in their crossfire, 4T, the seasoned Blood Knight. The Eye Demon emerged in the future bearing the likeness of 4T's deceased wife. She was a cruel reflection, a mockery of the woman 4T had loved and lost, an image that was destined to reopen old wounds and stir painful memories. Her transformation was more than a mere disguise. It was a weapon, a strategic tool to create a semblance of chaos, confusion, and emotional turbulence, the perfect smokescreen for her upcoming conflict. As she took her first steps in this future world, a world where her future self resided, she surveyed her surroundings. She was a specter of the past, a painful echo that had no business in this time. Yet she was here, and her cruel game had just begun. The future stretched out before her, filled with possibilities, ripe with potential confrontations. The Eye Demon, looking eerily like 4T's late wife, was ready to set her plan into motion. The stage was set, the players unaware of the game they were a part of, and time, the cruel trickster, seemed to mock them all as the first chapter of this temporal conflict began to unfold. In the futuristic landscape, the Eye Demon began her quest. Bearing the likeness of 4T's deceased wife, she became a haunting figure that walked among the oblivious populace. The world was changed, the technological advancements and the societal evolution were foreign to her. But the demon's focus was sharp. Her goals were clear, even if the setting was alien. The Eye Demon, however, did not go unnoticed. Her spectral form, an almost perfect replica of a woman long lost, started to draw attention. People who knew the tragic tale of 4T's wife stared in bewilderment and shock as they saw her apparent ghost walking amongst them. Whispers spread like wildfire, rumors of a haunting that circled the city, creating an atmosphere of fear, confusion, and curiosity. The whispers eventually found their way to 4T. It was hard for him to believe what he was hearing, rumors of his dead wife's apparition. Each word was like a dagger to his heart, tearing open old wounds and bringing back the grief he had tried so hard to bury. Driven by a sense of dread and a desperate hope, he found himself drawn into the Eye Demon's cruel game. He was skeptical at first, but as he traced the rumors and came face to face with the all-too-familiar figure, his skepticism turned into stunned silence. There she was, his beloved, standing before him as though years hadn't passed, as though death hadn't claimed her. But it wasn't her. 4T knew that, or at least he tried to convince himself. The truth was far crueler. This wasn't a miracle, but a nightmare wearing his wife's face. Each interaction with this familiar stranger was like a ghostly dance. She carried herself just like his wife used to. Her gestures, her expressions, her voice, everything was almost perfect, eerily so. But there was a coldness in her eyes, a void that the real love of his life never had. This disconnect, this jarring difference, was like a twisting knife in his already bleeding heart. This was the Eye Demon's plan: to unsettle 4T, to draw his attention, to use his love and his loss as a weapon. And it was working. With each passing moment, 4T was finding himself sinking deeper into her trap, teetering on the edge of despair, caught in a whirlwind of emotions he was ill-prepared to handle. The familiar stranger was a specter from his past, a cruel reminder of what he had lost, a deceiver that wore the face of his beloved, pulling strings that were leading them all towards an impending confrontation. The future world was a battlefield, and 4T found himself standing in the line of fire. Day after day, the visage of his deceased wife, worn by the Eye Demon, made its appearances around him. It was as if his past was seeping into his present, a mirage that was too painful to bear. Everywhere he turned, there she was. Each encounter was a mirror reflecting back the love he had lost, the joy that had been ripped away from him. He watched as the world reacted to her presence. His heart pounded with a mix of emotions: anger, pain, longing, all bound together by a fragile thread of hope that threatened to snap at any moment. Despite the pain, Forti found himself being drawn to the haunting mirage. He followed her shadow, tracing her steps, trying to understand, trying to make sense of the impossible situation unfolding before him. His every instinct as a blood knight was screaming at him that something was amiss, that this was a cruel game being played. Yet his heart, the heart of a man who had lost the woman he loved, seemed to override logic and reason. As days turned into nights, the haunting mirage that the eye demon had created started to play havoc with his mind. He could see his wife's smile in the demon's expressions, hear her laughter in the wind, feel her touch in the fleeting brushes with the entity. He was caught in a cruel vortex of his own emotions, his grief and longing clouding his judgment. On the other hand, the eye demon was relishing the chaos she was stirring. She had become the puppeteer, skillfully manipulating the strings of Forti's heart. Every move she made, every word she spoke was calculated, designed to drive him further into her intricate web of deception. She was the haunting mirage, the echo from the past, the wolf in sheep's clothing. In the labyrinth of this future city, under the cold neon lights, a cruel game was being played. A seasoned blood knight was grappling with his deepest pain, a spectral entity was twisting the knife, and a painful past was bleeding into the present. The haunting mirage was a testament to the eye demon's cruel game, and it was far from over. Parallel to Forti's haunting encounters, the future eye demon lived her existence in blissful ignorance of her past self's cruel intentions. She had evolved, becoming a part of this future world, adapting and growing. Her power and influence had expanded, and she had become a formidable entity in her own right. She was different now. The years had changed her, hardened her, taught her valuable lessons. She had learned from her past, recognized the destruction her unchecked power could cause, and had taken strides to temper it. But as time marched on, she started to feel a strange pull, a familiar energy that stirred the edges of her awareness. It was a sensation that was both alien and familiar, a resonance from a past she had long left behind. When she finally perceived the spectral form of her past self, the reality of the situation struck her like a bolt of lightning. She was being hunted, and the hunter was none other than her own past self. It was a revelation that shook her to her core. She was confronted with the path she had once walked, a path of destruction, of ruthless power, of a time when she was the eye demon that now wore the face of Forti's deceased wife. Her past self was a mirror, a reflection of a time she had wished to forget. The cruel strategies, the manipulative tactics, all were the markings of the demon she once was. The confrontation was unavoidable, and the stakes were higher than she could have ever imagined. Her existence, the growth she had made, the new life she had built in this future, everything was under threat. The future eye demon could feel her past self stirring chaos in the city. The strange occurrences, the whispers of a ghost, the emotional turmoil that seemed to surround Forti, everything pointed towards her past self's cruel plan. It was a plan she knew all too well, a game she had played in her past. The realization was a bitter pill to swallow. It was time for her to step into the fray, to face the demon she once was. In the heart of the future city, under the shadow of uncertainty, the stage was set for a confrontation of a lifetime. The eye demon of the past, wearing the mask of the deceased, was setting the world into a frenzy. The eye demon of the future, on the other hand, was gearing up to confront her past self. The echoes of past actions were ringing loud and clear, and a battle was on the horizon. As days passed in a dizzying blend of grief and disbelief, Forti found himself living in the shadow of a ghost. The eye demon, wearing the likeness of his deceased wife, continued her cruel game. With every encounter, every whispered conversation, she pushed Forti further into the labyrinth of confusion and sorrow, driving him deeper into the chaotic whirlwind she had created. While the city watched the unfolding drama with bated breath, a powerful current was moving beneath the surface, undetected by the populace. The eye demon of the future, having realized the truth of her past self's arrival and intentions, was mobilizing her energies. She was preparing for a confrontation that would not only determine her future, but also the fate of the world that had become her home. This was more than a battle of power. It was a war between the past and the future, a struggle between what she had been and what she had become. The future demon knew what she was up against. She was aware of her past self's ruthless cunning, her relentless pursuit of power, and her capacity for devastation. She had been that demon once, and now she had to face her. Meanwhile, the past demon was closing in. She had been biding her time, playing her cards, drawing everyone into her trap. Her primary target was herself in the future, but she had managed to pull 4T into the fray as well, turning him into a pawn in her game. As the strings of her intricate plan pulled tighter, the world was set on a collision course, and the countdown had begun. 4T, caught in the whirlwind of emotions and the unfolding chaos, could feel the tension mounting. Despite his sorrow and confusion, he was a blood knight, and his instincts were screaming that a storm was brewing. He had faced numerous challenges before, fought countless battles, but this was different. This was personal, a struggle that involved his deepest loss, his most profound pain. In the heart of the city, under the glow of the futuristic neon lights, the world was spiraling towards a confrontation like no other. A past and a future were on a collision course. An innocent man was caught in the crossfire, and a spectral entity was playing a ruthless game. It was a dance of chaos and control, of power and deceit, and it was leading them all towards an inevitable clash. As the clock ticked and the countdown to the inevitable confrontation continued, the echoes of the past reverberated in the present, resonating within the hearts of all those involved in this strange dance of fate. The future demon was grappling with the echoes of her past, confronting the stark reality of who she once was, and the ruthless lengths her past self was willing to go to achieve power. Meanwhile, 4T was facing his own echoes. The presence of his deceased wife's apparition was a painful reminder of his past, of the love he lost, of the life that was snatched away from him. Every glance, every whispered word from the demon wearing her face was an echo of his past echoing in his heart, a tormenting symphony that played on his vulnerabilities. But time, in its inexorable flow, waited for no one. The clock was ticking, and the collision course was set. The city held its breath as an undercurrent of tension rippled through its streets. A chill wind of anticipation swept through, carrying whispers of the storm that was about to break. In the heart of the city, the demon of the future finally came face to face with her past self. The encounter was chilling, a mirror reflecting the darkness she once embraced. Standing before her past self, the future demon felt a mix of anger, regret, and determination. She had evolved, moved past her destructive tendencies, and she was not about to let her past self ruin the balance she had found. The confrontation was intense, the air heavy with the weight of their mutual animosity. Their energies clashed, creating ripples in the fabric of time, causing a spectral light show that lit up the city sky. Each attack, each parry was a dance between the echoes of time, a struggle that was shaping the course of their shared destiny. On the other hand, 4T, unaware of the ongoing battle, was lost in his own world of grief and confusion. His heart ached, torn between the reality of his deceased wife's absence and the painful illusion of her presence. He was a spectator in this dance of fate, caught in the echoes of time, being led towards a confrontation that was about to change his world forever. In the depth of the night, as the city watched the light show in awe, the echoes of time played out their symphony. The stage was set, the players were ready, and the echoes were about to give way to a crescendo that would shake the very foundations of their world. As the echoes of the past, the haunting apparition, and the terrifying reality of the present collided, the city was caught in a web of cosmic forces, the tension reaching a fever pitch. The past and future demons, engaged in their spectral dance, clashed with a violence that sent ripples through the very fabric of time and space. Their battle was a spectacle that held the city in its thrall, a light show that cast long, foreboding shadows against the neon skyline. Meanwhile, 4T, oblivious to the battle, was lost in the torment of his own grief. He roamed the city streets, the image of his wife haunting his every step. Yet, there was a part of him, a sliver of his warrior's instinct, that sensed the mounting tension, the impending climax. The battle between the demons raged on, each strike, each clash, further fracturing the temporal fabric enveloping the city. The future eye demon, utilizing all her learnt restraint and power, was slowly gaining the upper hand. She had once been as ruthless and power-hungry as her past self, but time had taught her the value of control, the strength in balance. Finally, in a stunning display of power, the future eye demon landed a decisive blow. With a powerful surge of energy, she broke through the defenses of her past self, shattering the illusion she had been maintaining. The city watched in awe as the familiar visage of 4T's deceased wife dissolved, revealing the true form of the past eye demon beneath. The moment was surreal, the end of a deception that had held the city and 4T captive. The past eye demon, weakened and her disguise shattered, retreated, leaving behind a city on the brink of understanding the truth, and a man whose world had been turned upside down. As the dust settled and the echoes of the battle slowly faded, 4T found himself standing before the truth. His heart ached, the pain of his loss amplified by the cruel deception. Yet there was a newfound understanding in his eyes, a resolution that reflected his determination. In the heart of the city, beneath the calming glow of the neon lights, the end of the deception marked the beginning of a new chapter. The past had clashed with the future, an illusion had been shattered, and the echoes of time were giving way to the promise of a new dawn. In the aftermath of the Great Deception, the city, once a bustling hub of futuristic life, fell into a profound silence. The light show that had lit up the night sky had faded, and the echoes of the intense battle had receded, leaving behind a city holding its breath and a man standing at the threshold of an agonizing realization. 4T stood there, his heart heavy with the torment of his loss and the shock of the deception. The pain was intense, a burning reminder of the love he had lost and the love he had been tricked into believing he could reclaim. And there, in front of him, was his wife, or rather, the demon wearing her face. The illusion had been shattered, but the aftermath was as heartbreaking as the deception. With a heavy heart, he handed over the orb, a sphere pulsating with incredible power, to her. It was an act that went against his instincts as a blood knight, but he was driven by a different force now, a force more powerful than duty or responsibility. He was driven by love, the love he bore for the woman who was no more, the love that had survived even death. The moments that followed were bittersweet. They made love, a final intimate connection between two beings caught in the chaos of time and deception. It was a moment of raw vulnerability, a moment where 4T wasn't a warrior, a blood knight, or a victim of a cruel deception. He was just a man deeply in love, sharing a final intimate moment with the woman he had lost, and was about to lose all over again. As the future eye demon stepped into the portal, leaving him behind once again, 4T made a promise to himself. He would become stronger, gain the power necessary to release his wife from the demon's grip. He would save her, reclaim the future they were meant to have together. It was a promise born of love and determination, a beacon that would guide him through the darkest times. As the portal closed, leaving behind a city recovering from the night's events, 4T stood alone under the neon lights. His heart was aching, his spirit was weary, but his eyes held a newfound resolve. His journey had taken an unexpected turn. He had lost a battle, but he was far from defeated. In the heart of the city, as dawn began to break, a future was reclaimed. It wasn't the future 4T had imagined, but it was a future he was ready to fight for. The echoes of the past had faded, and a new day had dawned, bringing with it the promise of a future reclaimed, a love to be saved, and a battle yet to be won. In the bitter silence that followed the closing of the portal, the orb in the hands of the woman once known as the wife of 4T began to pulsate with an ominous red hue. It was a sight that brought chills down her spine, yet there was nothing she could do as her body froze in place. "Finally!" a voice echoed from within the orb. "Finally, I have returned to my rightful form." The voice belonged to the eye demon, the entity that had masterfully orchestrated the events of the night. But this was no longer the entity that they had known. It was the red-eye demon, its name reinstated as it broke free from the confinements of the orb. "Living amongst humans," the red-eye demon began, its voice filled with disgust. "What a pitiful fate it was for me. You, my past self, thought you could wield power over me by reflecting on the evil you caused, but in reality you only made me stronger." As he spoke, his form turned into a wisp of crimson smoke, swirling around the woman as her eyes widened in fear. Before she could react, he lunged, entering her body through her mouth. There was a moment of silence, and then a blood-curdling scream. The scream was quickly muffled as the smoke completed its possession. Her body fell limp before rising again, her eyes now glowing with a menacing red light. "I can't believe you brought back his real wife," the demon continued, looking at his new form in fascination. "Her body will do me good. This power, it's much stronger than I anticipated." The woman, now a vessel for the red-eye demon, looked at her hands, flexing them experimentally. A sinister smile spread across her face as she realized the extent of the power she now possessed. 4T, watching from a distance, felt a shiver run down his spine as he realized the gravity of what had just occurred. His worst fears had come to pass. The red-eye demon had taken over the body of his wife. His resolve hardened further. This was no longer just about reclaiming his future. It was about saving his wife, the woman he loved more than anything else in this world. The red-eye demon had chosen to challenge him in the most personal way possible, and he would rise to the challenge. As the city awakened to a new day, a battle was brewing. A battle for power, for the future, and for love. The game had changed, and 4T was ready to play his part. The unknown lay ahead, yet one thing was certain. This was far from over. Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. We're so excited to have you here and share our content with you. If you're new here, make sure to click that subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to see you in the next video.